Well, let me start with the screencast-o-matic to go over what we did in class last night. That's, what the heck is that? Tuesday the 3rd of December. So it's kind of a process for getting ready for Essay 3. You don't have to do all of the sections in this thing, and that would be impossible. But look for like 6 or 8 pages, and keep in mind it's more about the process and going kind of deep into smaller areas of content. So an example of that is that we looked through and read very carefully this section, what the scientific data tells us about climate. That's from the Heritage Report. I'll put that right under this link so you can find it all in one place, including this link. So we read through this. The first thing was to read very carefully, kind of keeping an eye out for loaded language. And just actually these several paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs, just to get an idea of their logic. And it was pretty straight ahead that there's no way they can measure accurately. Because of this, the scientists who lack integrity adjust temperatures. IPCC might be in on it. But thank God we get somebody like Judith Curry to tell us what's really going on. So it's 2 charges that the temperature measurements are inaccurate, almost impossible, that the people writing about them are just, they don't have the right integrity. It's open to too much mischief, pretty much. And then finally, thank God we have a nice climate denialist like Judith Curry to set the record straight. So what we did in class is we just looked at this one paragraph, looked for loaded language, understood what the argument was, how it benefited the fossil fuel industry. And that would be sort of a first paragraph. One of the arguments they used to reject the worry about climate change is that they basically insist that there is no way of accurately measuring the temperature. Very simple. And of course, if there's no way of accurately measuring the temperature, then there's absolutely no reason to do anything about burning fossil fuels. We just simply don't have enough data to do anything. So it's a wonderful sort of doubt thing they do there. And then the next step, after you would articulate that, you'd look for loaded language. So you could talk about not only what their argument is, but how they bring it together with some pretty loaded language, whatever you want to do. You can look at contention, you look at no comprehensive coverage, contamination, all those other loaded terms that make it look like the data simply are not any good. So that's your first paragraph. Introduce the argument they make, how they make it, and why it benefits the fossil fuel industry. Second smaller one is just go into the reputations of the people whom they cite. And you can look at John Christie, his global skepticism. I think they call it Christie Crocs, okay? And then you can look at Anthony Watts, or check out the Wikipedia on Anthony Watts. Gets his money from the Heartland Institute. We kind of know what that's about. So fossil fuel funded person. So do a little bit, have just a short section about the woozle, the fact that they're citing people who have no credibility. We're still focusing on the same section. And then the next thing is to search into the authors and the subject and skeptical science. And that will give you articles about, so I did, you have John Christie, I think it's Anthony Watts, and John Christie plus global temperature records, global temperature adjustments, whatever it is, skeptical science. Now, I spent a fair amount of time nearly going blind looking for the article we used last night. Didn't find it, but that's all right. I found plenty good ones just by going into the search, and Google will drop down. There'll be a number of articles. All of these would have similar content, debunking similar claims by climate denialists. The second one here has the advantage of having a video by that British guy we listened to last night. So I'm going to put that one in just because I'd like to see this character again. It's nice to start off with a video. That'll give you some of the basic arguments. And then, so the goal for this next part is just as arduous as reading the article carefully as you did for the main claim, how they bring it to life, loaded language, etc. When you get into here, you're going to do it carefully, comb through these somewhat longer position papers, gloss over the stuff that doesn't make sense. You don't have to go wonky and start looking up 20 and 40 page reports to figure out exactly what the science is. Enough of it is in common language to help you understand just how accurate the temperature record is. So just take your time and read through, or look at a couple of others of these, and you'll get an idea of what actually happens when they measure the temperature, how reliable it is, how there's kind of a natural built-in variation, but there are also very, very certain trends. And you'll get an idea of just how substantial the temperature record is. So that would be your next section of this, is that, so you've got your first, you've talked about what their argument is, how they make it, how it benefits the fossil fuel industry. The second step is you write about the Woozle effect. And then the third writing section, actually there are more steps in that, the third writing section is to write about what the science really says about temperature readings and pretty much how robust they are, honestly, and how reliable they are. So that would allow you to do a few things. You state the argument they make. You understand how come that argument's beneficial to the fossil fuel industry. You look at the credibility of the people whom they cite to back up this argument. And then finally, you look to skeptical science by searching the authors and some key words for the topic, and you find out what the science actually says. So you probably can do that you could stick with the same section in the Heritage Report if you want. Plenty of stuff to fill out a whole 6 or 8 page paper just looking at the variety of claims they make about temperature readings. Or you could take a sample from that section, as we just have talked our way through and we did last night, and then maybe find another thing about, we looked at the medieval warming period. Maybe you could check into that and go through the same process. Or maybe you can go through, as we did earlier, the 97%. And examine why it's important for the fossil fuel industry to debunk that number, and then look into how that number actually is arrived at. Or you can do biases in climate research. So the point is you're probably going to want a couple sections, 2 or 3. However, if you just stuck with the temperature readings, which would be well worth focusing upon, I'm sure you could find room for a 6 to 8 page paper by using the same process and analyzing the 3 or 4 claims they make in that section. So I hope this helps you get around to the process. And then when you write your essay, it's pretty simple. The usual stuff for the introduction: who, what, where, when, why, Heritage Report, and forgive me for trying to click over to that, but anyway, no justification for extreme measures. When it was published, I think it's 2014. I guess I should know that by now. Trying to figure out how to click on it here, and this thing is not. Oh, there it is. I'm already there. Okay, so yeah, 2016. Pardon me. Some of it was 14. Some of the citations. So 2014 Heritage Foundation report, written in support of the fossil fuel industry and denying the urgency of global warming. That's pretty much it. The basis of it, and to defend the fossil fuel industry and to undermine the science, the climate science that suggests we have to do something urgency about global warming. They use several strategic arguments to undercut the current science. And that's a sample introduction. I just kind of did off the top of my head. And then you can move into the arguments one by one and then write a summary conclusion. So I hope this gives you an idea of how to start, how to work systematically through the different sections. And then I will host this video and these 5 or 6 sites, whatever they are, in the module for this essay, so you'll be able to kind of walk through the whole process.